Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I'm Kayla Megwa.
And I'm Ayo Makine. Good morning and welcome to the program this morning. Today is the 5th day in the month of February. Let's put it better. 2525. That's the way we do it in secondary school, isn't it?
Yes.
So,
2525. Yes.
So
indeed.
welcome to the program. I'm Ayo Makine.
Well, we have quite a packed program for you today. But let's start off with our skyline, and we are staying in the nation's capital with this one. Ayo was telling us off camera how this place and what it is named, who it is named after, is one that should be taught to a lot of young people. That's the Murtala Mohammed Expressway, and of course around there you see Katangpe, right here in the nation's capital. This road, in fact, this road is the road of roads because it links Guzape everywhere. This road, if we really think about it, this road leads all the way to Apo. It's the same road. You know, if you come from Apo, you pass Guzape, you pass all the military barracks, and then you now head, if you're going towards Kubwa, this is the road you follow. Same road to Suleja. It is a very long road and one that links a lot of parts of the nation's capital. But the segment I think that we brought to you today is the part around the Katangpe area. A lot of development springing up around this part of the nation's capital, but a very interesting sight from above, because when you're on this road, you're trying to get as quickly as possible to your destination. that's the feeling on this road. People speed quite a lot on this road, but Murtala Mohammed Expressway, Katangpe, Abuja. Ayo, so talk to us a little bit about the man who this road is named after.
Well, before I get to that, I have to appreciate this beauty, Kayla. I just have to cherish and celebrate it. I mean, it's what you call it that it is. I mean, wherever you find yourself. And one of the things that I imagine, Kayla, is just put on your Google map and it happens to be an African voice or a non-African person navigating you. I'm just wondering how this name would be called, because sometimes when they shorten Alhaji to LAH, it goes ALH to ALH. It's just going to say ALH and not Alhaji, but hey, what do I know? Yeah, so it was named after Murtala Mohammed. That's a general. And I'm also happy about something concerning the FCT. Most of the roads are named after Nigerians, after people who have done incredible things in the country. MQ Abiola Stadium, Shehu Shagari Expressway, Goodluck Jonathan and the rest of them. Very, very wonderful things that have been done. But some would probably be wondering what's all these about. Well, Murtala Mohammed was General Murtala Ramat Mohammed, GCFR, born 1938. He was assassinated February 13, 1976. You know, he was born in Kano into a ruling class religious family. And, you know, that coup of 1976 that saw to his demise broke the hearts of many. He had a very, very short reign between July 1975 and February 1976. And a number of people thought that he was doing some things, really amazing things, trying to make lives easier. As a matter of fact, if memory serves me right, when he came into power as a military head of state, of course, we've had a military government from 1966 until that time. When he came into power, it seemed like things were a little cheaper. Prices of stuff dropped immediately after he came into power. So I guess maybe some people were just not happy about him. When he's on the road, his convoy always had this very interesting pilot bike rider. I think they called the fellow Babai Beji. Of course, the capital of Nigeria was in Lagos at the time. This fellow was very, very acrobatic on the bike. Very acrobatic on the bike, a military man. It should also be noted, Kayla, that it was during his government, Murtala Mohammed's government, as head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that the movement, that the initiative to move the federal capital from Lagos to Abuja started. That was actualized under the Ibrahim Babangida government. It was under Murtala Mohammed, it was a 20-year plan. Whether or not the plan was followed is another thing altogether, but I think it was in the 20th year that the Babangida government moved the seat of government from Lagos to Abuja. So yes, this is a very, very well-deserved memorabilia for the person of General Murtala Ramat Mohammed.
Fantastic there. Lovely history lesson about Murtala Mohammed. And I think the only thing that was left out is the fact that he's the face of your 20 naira note.
Oh well, yes.
It's his face that is on the 20
In fact, when that currency came out, it was the first time we were having. I think it was the first time we were having the face of anybody. They called in Southwest Nigeria. They called that note Muri. They called the note Muri. And it was a famous, it was the famous, it was a famous currency denomination at the time, all through West Africa. And don't forget, he's also the international airport in Lagos is also named. In fact, the airport in Lagos is also named after him. So that's why you have MM1, MM2. It's Murtala Mohammed International Airport. MMIA is Murtala Mohammed International Airport. So when you hear MM1, MM2, that's the fellow after which it is named. So yes, I remember Muri. I won't forget it ever.
It's a very interesting piece of Nigeria's history right there. Thank you, Ayo, for that lesson. Well, we do have to go on a short break. When we come back, we'll start off our conversation with some disappointing news. I know it does feel sometimes like it's always doom and gloom and always something bad happening that we're talking about. But those are the cards that we're dealt, and we do have to talk about it. But what we're going to be doing when we talk about these tanker fires is take a look back and really see how much destruction has been done over the years and how this has been, I don't know if the word is ignored or if there is an out-of-the-box thinking that is missing, but we'll get to that. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's go to Adamawa State now. We saw this story yesterday evening and it made everyone so upset. This is a fuel tanker at the MRS filling station along Numan Road opposite the Jesco filling station near the Yola International Airport and was engulfed in flames yesterday. Well, at the time, the road that was leading into Yola was blocked. Many residents, and as you can see, despite the ads, we have so many ads we've done explaining to people when you see a fire, don't go near it. Well, you see a lot of people running there to see how the fire is going, apparently. I don't know what it is that they're looking for, but very curious as to what's going on. But the inferno actually engulfed 2 fuel tankers, and men of the fire service who arrived at the scene were battling to contain the fire at the time. I think one of the biggest problems really was this crowd that we saw. And looking at this crowd, you wonder, all the ads that we've been doing, all the messages from NNPC, Petron, the NOA, everyone has been telling people, when you see a fire, don't go near it. What seems to be the problem? What seems to be the problem? There's so many areas where things have gone wrong in this particular situation. This is the one that just happened yesterday in Adamawa. Not too long ago, we had one in Enugu. We had one in Enugu as well. tankers with fuel exploding and putting the lives of people, destroying a lot of property, putting all of this in danger. We had Enugu not too long ago. We had Niger State not too long ago. And then we had the terrible one that happened in Jigawa. Is it the road? Is it the tanker? Is it the driver? Is it the tire of the tanker? What is the problem? How are these accidents happening over and over again? We keep looking at it as though it's such a terrible disaster. Oh, people do the right thing. But what's going on? Is this the situation in other parts of the world? Is this how tankers keep catching fire and people keep getting hurt? Is this the reality? Or is there something that we are not doing? We're seeing visuals there of previous tanker fires. I'm wondering what's really going on. Whatever needs to happen to ensure that people are a bit more careful, to ensure that these tankers stop these explosions. Because I don't understand, is it the road? Is it the driver? Is it the car itself? What is the problem? Is it the product? Should we find other ways of shipping products? What's the issue? We're seeing that one from Jigawa. That one from Jigawa was actually particularly heinous because of how many people died as a result. And we've seen it continue from state to state. Jigawa, Niger multiple times, then Enugu, and now Adamawa. And watching those people, and Anambra as well. So watching these things continue to happen tells us that there is something not being done. And that thing that is not being done is costing the lives of Nigerians. Whatever has to be done needs to be done quickly. And for the people who are watching this right now, it was so scary when we saw those people rush out towards in Adamawa State there. Let's not put our lives in danger. We have put the information out there. The NOA has done a special ad for you. It's everywhere. It's in all languages. Pamphlets are everywhere. Everyone is talking about how you shouldn't be rushing towards fire. The local authorities have also been engaged. The religious leaders have also been engaged in this. Maybe more engagement, maybe more communication to ensure that this message actually goes down to people. When you see a fire, stop running towards it. It will engulf you. Fire is not your mate. Fire will engulf you. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're going to be talking about crude oil. And joining us for this conversation, I think when we saw this story yesterday night, we were like, okay, so what's really going on? And what does this mean for our production here in the country? And I'm talking about the federal government banning the export of crude oil meant to meet the needs of domestic refineries in the country. One of the first people to respond when this story came out is the first guest we have here, the national president of Petron. We have Mr. Billy Gillis Harry. Thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you so much, Kayla, for having me here.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have Joe Nwakwe joining us via Zoom, Chairman Spell Oil and Gas, former Chair, Society of Petroleum Engineers, former SA to the Minister of State, Petroleum Resources. Thank you so much for being with us on the program as well. Okay, I think while we're trying to get that audio together so we can have a conversation with him, let me start off with Mr. Billy Gillis Harry. So you've been excited, at least that's the tone I got from your message. Said this was important because the fuel that is supposed to be used for local production is being exported. Talk to us about that scenario and what this means for you.
Well, before we delve into that, I think these fire incidents that is consistently happening is a major issue now, because I want to thank channels. When I saw the size of adverts that channel has put out to advise Nigerians, ensure that you don't run into fire, you don't stay around inflammable petroleum products. It's very fantastic work you're doing, and I want to commend channel for that. But that this continues is such a very difficult thing to understand. But we have good news. Hopefully, by tomorrow, between this hour and 6, we'll be having a major symposium on this, organized by the Major Energies Marketers Association of Nigeria. Very responsible organization that's putting together all that is required, to ensure that the Nigerians, and the business people and Nigerians who rush into getting themselves hot will be educated. And we hope that that program will be very well publicized so that Nigerians can pay attention to it and save lives. So we really present our condolences to everybody who has lost lives in these infernos across the states, and we sympathize with the governors and even the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So having said that, excitement for me is a very difficult word to use. I don't know what else I'm going to use to say that the federal government is responding to what, in my opinion, will strengthen our economy. Because when you look at the way we build up foreign exchange reserves and how it gets depleted, you just wonder. And then when you go down the statistics, you find out that most of it is going for refined product imports. And it's so confusing that we do swap and then we still spend so much of our forex for that. And Petron, as an organization that's always looking out for how Nigeria should be better, was there to push, that every product, every crude oil that is meant for domestic consumption should be kept, because it's not even enough. When the 500,000 barrels per day was reserved, we had just only few refineries that are refining in the country. Today you have a major refining machine in the world, not just in Africa, the Dangote refinery, gulping 650,000 barrels per day. And then you now add all the other refineries. Whether they are now optimally functioning or not, you must make provisions so that we can be certain that importation of petroleum products that will be depleting our foreign exchange will be completely removed.
I want to get clarification from you. Are we still importing?
Well, to our surprise, because Petron is not importing.
Okay. And
we indeed told our members who have the capacity. Petron has members who have massive capacity to import tens of thousands of refined products of any design. But we specifically discussed with our team that please don't import PMS. It is what that grows the economy of Nigeria. And so we have Dangote producing, we have NNPC refinery producing, we have other refineries that are coming up with that. So Petron, by ourselves, we are not.
You're not importing.
No, we are not, and we are not encouraging our members to import.
Are there people
they can import?
Are there people that are importing?
Well, there are.
To your knowledge?
Yes, there are. In fact, recently I raised an alarm. When I saw, I think about 15,000 or 20,000 metric tons of PMS being imported into Lagos, and I was very concerned that we have a very strong industry agreement, that importation should stop. So who is doing that?
Why are they importing?
Well,
is it cheaper?
Well, I really didn't. I was so pissed off that I didn't.
You didn't go into the details of it.
I was
rather
a lot of questions. Trying to raise alarm to stop whoever that is doing that. But what I got feedback was that these were products that were imported by some marketers a long time before those decisions were made.
Okay, so so that's the explanation you were giving.
Well, that's what I got, but I wasn't satisfied with it, because we, as Petron, also had importers who had already gone into final levels of negotiation with us to bring product that we don't even have to pay $1 for.
We're gonna get back to that conversation, but I want to bring in Mr. Joe Nwakwe into the conversation. Mr. Joe, the federal government banning the export of crude oil that is meant for the needs of the domestic refineries. Is this a good thing? At least it does seem like a lot of people are happy about this. But what does that mean for me, at least, for the regular Nigerian, when it comes to the price of petrol and its availability?
Okay, thank you. I think I would like to first start by saying I don't think it's being couched the right way. There's no ban. Okay, so we need to clarify that very quickly. If you look at the regulations, the production, curtailment, and domestic crude obligation regulation of 2023, it's in section 9.1. I think it specifically talks about export controls, right? So that's what they have said.
Isn't export control a ban?
Well, it's not a ban.
Okay.
And I need to explain this.
Okay.
A ban means you cannot, it becomes illegal to export crude, right? That's not what this is. What the regime requires is that you meet your domestic obligation, and then whatever is over and above that quantity of volume can be exported. And there are, it's a detailed set of rules. So the reason I say I try to clarify this is that let's not forget there are other parties, there are counterparties, whether they are offtake funders, people who brought money to invest, and suddenly you tell them they cannot take what they paid for, which is what a ban will mean. So that narrative will not go down well with international financing partners. So we need to be very careful how we say this. Yeah, the law says there will be production curtailment and export control. So that is what I think the NUPRC is doing. They are following what the law says. But I wouldn't use the word that it's an export ban. I don't think that's the case.
Okay. Well, you heard what you said, Mr. Billy.
Well, it's semantics. But
he has a point.
Yeah,
when you say there's an export ban, are you not making investors a little worried?
Well, let me differ a little bit from Joe. We just got a new president of the United States of America, and what is his focus? America first. Period. Nigerians must learn that. Are we not doing business in other countries? I had an experience where I was told to close my account in Chase Bank in America. It's their law. This is domestic value that they are pursuing. So, why were we told to do so? And I was not the only Nigerian. A lot of high-end Nigerians were told to do the same thing. So, we must, as a country, look out for what necessarily must grow us. So yes, I agree that the word should not be banned, because exports are not banned. But the fact is, there is restriction of what must be exported, so long as it's infringing on the domestic consumption volume. And that's, in itself, is heartwarming, because we're having a lot of refineries coming up. We are pursuing the fact that our production should meet the ceiling and beyond.
If we do 500,000 barrels per day of crude for local refining,
yes.
If we do more than that, can't we export the rest?
We do much more than that. Right now, OPEC has given us a ceiling of 1.5.
Okay. Recently,
you heard that the objective is to go up to 2.2. And we, I'm a Niger Delta, so I really hope, that the government will do what is correct, encourage the communities, encourage security, encourage production, and at the same time also, reach out to other parts of Nigeria that have minerals that are being exported illegally, that is seemingly not being under control.
I mean, we saw this happen last year with cooking gas, didn't we? Same president, same narrative with cooking gas in the country. We have to meet local production and consumption.
So now we should walk our talk. I know the gentleman who is sitting on top of the Inuk is a no-nonsense man. And I believe that from what Joe has said, is walking the talk of the extant rules that are going to be guiding that. But the fact that we must tweak our decisions to favor our domestic economy to grow is what excise petrol. Because at the end of the day, we 500,000 barrels per day. It's not even enough, because today what is estimated, and that's where I was going to. When you add the total requirement of Dangote, you add the NNPC refinery, you add Aradel, you add Edo refinery, you add all of them. We are talking about, almost 900 and something thousand barrels per day. So why don't we work out a policy that is going to favor that, and then also look at how the OPEC OPEC caps are also met. So for me, it's a very, very good decision that the federal government has done.
I want to get Joe to respond to that, and Mr. Makwe, you didn't exactly answer my question about, okay, so let's remove the word ban, since you've clarified in your view that it's not a ban. All right, let's take it out of the picture. Now, let's talk a little bit about what it means for local production. And like I said earlier, when it comes to cost and availability, is this the solution? Is this the way to bring down this very expensive fuel that we're buying?
Okay, well, is it a good thing? I'll start by saying that ideally, right, we are not supposed to have this obligation. So let's be very clear that if we have done everything right, there is really no need in a free market to force anybody to sell his product to a specific buyer or set of buyers. So let's get that through the door. Now we are here. So is it a good thing that NPRC is simply following the law? The law specifies, the PIA clearly in section 109 has created a regime for domestic supply obligation for crude. We have had this for gas for many years, I think since 2008. So for crude, we only did it for crude under the PIA. So and it's a very difficult thing to implement. You must give it to the regulators. It never quite worked well for gas. Now we are doing it for crude, and they've backed up this. So beyond the PIA provisions, they've written a regulation and a guideline as well to help implement. So that tells you how difficult this really is. And like I said, the regulation in section 9.2 clearly specifies that where there's need, where a company has an obligation and it hasn't met it, so they actually have the right to refuse to approve the export permit.
Okay.
So that's what NUPRC has come out to say, that we will do that henceforth, and that's in order. So overall, it's not a good thing that we're in this regime. I must tell you this, because what it does is it creates challenges. Remember, we are all out trying to attract investments into the sector.
Yes.
Now, the bulk of that money is not domestic, it's not here. So when you go out and tell people that you have a regime that restricts who they can sell to, or whether, so basically there are a bunch of trading houses out there who invest and take crude as offtake. So basically they are going to be worried, right? Why will I invest if by your law I cannot take that crude away? It has to find home in a local refinery. So, and that's why I say that, as a stopgap measure, we can live with this. It's not a perfect situation, but I think as the market develops, hopefully we'll get to a point where we will have enough volumes to go around.
Yeah.
So there will be no need to force anyone to sell to any specific person. So imagine, for example, if we ramp up to 2.5 million barrels of oil per day.
Yes.
I think at that point there will be sufficient enough volumes to go around.
All right. I do have to. Yes.
Okay. No, go ahead.
No, let me let you land on your point then. Yes, two.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to say is that equally have to be careful. Remember that most of those volumes have been committed via loans. So we took, as a nation, right, especially the NNPC equity volumes, right? They had taken loans against those volumes.
Okay.
So when you force them to sell those volumes you're in violation of contractual obligations, and that's going to have implications. So we really need to be careful how we manage it. And I hope that the regulator will engage those producers and work out a win-win situation for everybody. I think it's very important.
My colleague in Lagos, Ayo, has a few questions for both of you. Ayo.
You, Mr. Wakwe, I'm looking at part of what you said, when you talk about the fact that it's to meet local, the needs of local refiners. And from information available also, we'll find out that according to Newprick, Dagote, Port Harcourt, Warri, and other refineries need about 770,500 barrels per day. However, we are talking about a cap on 500,000 barrels per day. Even at 500,000 barrels per day, Mr. Wakwe, is still insufficient. So we still have to import. Mr. Wakwe, the question is for you.
Okay, all right. So yes, where we are today, we don't even have 500 as free, unencumbered. So I think we need to situate this conversation around capacity. Do we have enough capacity? Even if the law says, yes, you have to dedicate these volumes to the domestic refiners. Do you have that volume? Those are the big questions, right? My calculation is that we don't. And so this is a call to action, right? We need to ramp up output. We need to invest massively in the upstream. There's nothing wrong in targeting 2.5 to 3 million barrels of oil per day. That would be enough. The law was put in place for a reason. It will really be sad that somebody invests in local refinery and he does not have feedstock, right? So I don't want to get into the other issues around whether things have been done right or not. We are here today. We need to move forward. So my sense is we need to ramp up output. That way we can not just service the local refineries, we can meet our obligations. We have, whether it's offtake obligations or loan repayment obligations that need to be addressed. We will not do that if we shut out those guys. No, but that basically will just mean that you will not be able to attract the funding that you need to build the volumes. So we need to be that's why I say I think the regulator is taking the right steps, and these are very difficult and tricky decisions to take, and I think they're working it. But I wouldn't use the word ban. I had to make sure that.
That's understandable, because I mean, if the ban, the statement says ban on crude oil meant for local refineries, so we probably can still use the word ban, not outright ban on all exportation altogether. But you have advised Minister of State for Petroleum before. Now, I've looked at the list of refineries that are already in operation and those that are still coming up. I'm looking at their capacities, and I did the numbers. It's more than 1 million barrels per day that will be required if and when all those refineries come on stream. As at today, and going by the numbers that the federal government has released, the aspiration is that the allocation consists of about 30, is looking at a forecasted first half 2025 average daily production of 2.06 million barrels per day for this year. If and when all refineries are up and running in Nigeria 100%, do you think it's advisable to supply all of them more than 1 million barrels per day? Because it's always good to look forward sometimes. Would you advise it? Or you think we should still keep it in a situation where they can still import some crude?
So we need to be very, so feedstock is a technical issue. It's not as simple. It's not like water. Water has basic properties. You take water from there, you give. Every refinery is designed for specific feedstock, right? I'll give you an instance. If Kaduna were to be running, it won't take the same feedstock that Dangote will take, right? It needs heavy crude. So do you have enough heavy crude production to give to Kaduna. So the point I am making here is we can't possibly have this kind of conversation without looking at those refineries. What is the feedstock specification that they need? Are we producing enough of those? And my answer will be yes. If all the refineries have feedstock requirements that we can meet, why not? That would be the right. But there are like the Kaduna refinery, for instance. We used to bring in Venezuelan heavy oil for that, and that was by design, right? So that's the kind of thing. But I think we just need to ramp up volumes. Once we have volumes, it doesn't matter whether you import or not. The question is, are you producing enough so that we don't have this accretion in our forex in our reserves?
I think this perspective is quite instructive and informative for a number of Nigerians, because the disappointment is always, how can we be a crude oil producing country and still be importing crude? So you're saying that there are some refineries that are built specifically for certain crude oil that Nigeria does not produce?
That we may not be producing. So basically I'm saying this, that the feedstock requirements vary from refinery to refinery, and that will determine whether or not they can import or they can source locally. The sourcing of feedstock is a basic thing that anybody building a refinery should handle. So I'm a bit concerned that we are elevating this to a national debate. It's a technical matter.
Mr. Wakwe, to you, it's technical. To Nigerians, all we know is that we are producing crude, and we should not be importing crude. I don't know if it's too simplistic for you, Mr. Gillis Harry. This position that the angle at which I'm looking at this, because Nigeria produces crude, full stop. So we should not be importing crude. That's the perspective of some people. But we are now being educated, I don't know if you agree, that there are certain refineries that have to use certain crude oil feedstock that we do not produce. How helpful is that for you?
That is only for the Kaduna refinery. And that has been ongoing for a long time. That's why most of the crude required for Kaduna refinery are always brought in by importation and passed through Delta State. So it's not applicable to all the other refineries. So Kaduna's issue is, and of course you know that Kaduna produces quite specific type of petroleum product that's refined from there. But other than that, I am happy for the explanation that the ban that NUPRC has talked about is strictly for the domestic consumption. And I really support the action of Mr. Komolafe for that action, for that decision to implement that part of the law, that the PIA gives authorization, and even the domestic supply obligation rules, clearly states. Now, the point that is more needful to Nigerians, just like you said, and it is not simplistic. If you have a borehole in your house, you invested money to drill a borehole. So why are you going to be buying bottled water every day? It's as simple and straightforward as that. Yes, crude oil is not the same as water, but they are all drilled from the subsurface. So there will be nothing wrong with Nigerians expecting the best for them. And for us, who are there, I believe that this discourse is very needful for Nigerians to be educated more. So as to whether it has become a national discourse or not, I think, me personally, I would encourage that it should continuously be a subject matter in the public domain to educate Nigerians, so that they also don't over-expect and put pressure on the system when the system should be thinking much more about how to relax and take care of the technical issues.
Okay.
But having said that, it's still very critical for me to support Joe's position that we should ramp up production. When that ramping up is made, certainly we're going to be going above OPEC's production cap. So those are domestic things, and that's why we advise that we should have, a thinking out of the box, strictly for Nigeria. And like I said earlier, let us make Nigeria first in everything that we're doing. And we have clearly seen that PMS mostly is an energy that's required to grow our economy, from just simple things as grinding pepper to even running office systems, and even whole homes and houses. So it's very important that we take notice of that. And with this refining capacity being installed, we should also now be thinking about exporting refined product, which, in my opinion, will quite ramp up even our foreign reserves and give the Nigerian naira much more stronger, showing in the market.
Mr. Gillis-Harris, I'm going to stay with you for a bit longer, and talk about the first comment you made, particularly about curbing petrol tanker fires and the losses we incur. Yes, we have talked about the incidents. Yes, we have also talked about the loss of lives. But I'm looking at some numbers now, Mr. Gillis-Harris, and I date back as far back as 2007 to date. We have something in the region of 900 deaths, according to media reports. And those are the ones that we know, as opposed to the scores that are unnamed. But that's one. The one other aspect of this conversation that grieves my heart is the fact that there are losses of infrastructure. Because on the average, correct me if I'm wrong, how much is a tanker right now of a tanker truck? How much is one now? Something in the region of 80, 90 million? How much is the fuel itself that is lost at 800 to 900 naira per liter in the country? How much is lost to the roads where these fires are burnt? How much we lose to the environment? There are so many ancillary losses when these petrol tanker occurrences occur. So, have we factored in those? And how do we eradicate it, if possible?
It's a very somber reflection. It's what I hear these numbers rolled out. It's running tears out of my eyes, because these are Nigerians, our brothers, our sisters, who possibly will become leaders in this country that will even bring the change that we desire. So again, I will sympathize with the families and condole with everyone that is grieving out of this, very grave losses. However, damages have been done. For every tanker that explodes, minimum financial damage will be in the neighborhood of 150 million naira if it's a 45,000 liters tank. And even if it's a 33,000 liters tank, it's still in that neighborhood. But what is money when you compare it to just one life? And then we're talking about tens and tens of lives that are lost in these infernos, mostly out of ignorance or out of trying to eke out a living and thinking that scooping petrol, they could sell it and make money, whatever. So I think that the solution lies with effective regulation in our health, security, and environmental departments across board. I believe that NMDPROA, that is Saudi responsibility to ensure, that there is compliance, will do much more than is being done today. And like I said, when difficulties come, I think it is not so much for us to cry and really lament. We should rather go to the factory, to the engine room of our brains, and tinker out solutions. And that's why I'm always so much in love with our organizations, especially the leaders, Meman and Dapman, always running to the rescue because they have consistently worked out solutions, taking along all of the organizations, including Petron, to be able to think out solutions in all of these things. And I believe that the efforts that they are making tomorrow will start a whole new idea and regime in how these fires will be mitigated, how the regulations should be, put in place to make sure that tankers, the tanker drivers, the owners of the tankers are all held accountable for any mishap that happens. But besides that, we also have to look at the horrid way in which our petroleum products are loaded in our depots, and which is why we have consistently advocated that our rail lines should be designed in such a way that they go straight into the depots to take products from there by rail. Obviously, if petroleum products are going by rail, they will not meet vehicles that are overheated, or there is some kind of inflammatory object that's around that's going to ignite these fires.
Okay. Well, so,
I believe that tomorrow there'll be a lot of solutions to solve all this problem.
All right. Let me also ask Mr. Wakwe the same question, looking at it more now from, perhaps an advisory level as an industry person. You have been in the oil and gas system for long enough to know. You have chaired the Society of Petroleum Engineers, and I'm pretty sure that these issues are not new to you. There are things that have been happening for a while. But what's instructive, in this year alone, we have had 3 such incidents in the month of January. The 4th one happened yesterday. Thankfully, no loss of life has been reported from what happened yesterday. What could we be missing? As I said, I looked at data from as far back as 2007, and these things have happened on and on and on and on over the years. What could we be missing?
Well, I'm not sure I would use the word missing. I think the infrastructure is the big, and Dr. Harry talked about regulation. But I think basically we do not have the right infrastructure for moving products. Let's start from there. And so we are trucking from Lagos to Kano by road, and drivers get fatigued, vehicles are old. So the regulatory environment is you put regulation on top of what is available. The infrastructure, I think, is the problem. So we need to invest. We need to move products by other means. We need to move heavy stuff by rail, for instance. That is something that I think will help address most of these challenges. Regulation is important, and but it is what it is. Like I say, I think we need to enhance regulation, but we need to more than anything else, we need to invest in the infrastructure to move these products across the entire country. Nigeria is a fairly large area, and depending on just trucking for moving products, I think it's what we are missing. If I may use that.
Mr. Mwakwe, it's a very important point that you just made. In fact, I'm looking at the messages that we're getting on social media here, and that's the major thing everyone is saying. What are these trucks doing on the road? I'm going to come to you, Mr. Gillis. Is this the only way, Mr. Gillis, Harry?
Well,
moving petrol, only your car. Normally, just your car. Try driving from Lagos to Abuja. Your car will overheat by Kogi. At some point, you would have to rest that car. Unless, of course, you're a multi-millionaire that's using a very big car. But if you're using a regular Camry, by the time you get, your car will get hot. You need to rest it. Talk of a trailer that is carrying petrol. Is this the only way that we have right now?
Well, let me bring to the fore the effect of what NUPENG and PTD are doing. They are doing quite a lot to try to, form some kind of control and regulatory values. But ultimately, the regulators, that is NMDPRA, will be advised to ramp up quite a lot of compliance, values. Now, right now, that's the only way we're moving. You take products by marine from Lagos to Port Harcourt, or from the high sea to Lagos or whatever, and then once it gets into the depot, the only other means of bringing those products to our retail facilities is only by truck. So, if those trucks could be, regulated in a way that the safety measures are taken, the drivers are given effective training, and there is also, the need to always check the health of the drivers. Because it's very important. When somebody drives for so long, there's a psychological, instability, physical stress, and different.
Especially on the roads that they're driving. And
the roads themselves need to be fixed. Recently we had a meeting with the Honorable Minister of Works, and he assured us of some of the things that is going to be done, because our advocacy value is all round, not just only for what our retail outlets will know, because before the products get to our retail outlet, there's the issue of transportation and logistics. But we still will encourage the government to really look at a fast alternative. The fast alternative will be to put our infrastructure straight into the depots themselves.
Depots themselves.
Yes. So that way we can be able to get as much answers as possible.
Mr. Mwakwe, I'm going to go back to our conversation really about, it's a ban, sir, according to NUPRC. It's a ban, okay? And Mr. Komolafe is giving threats. Let me read his threat out for you. So the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Mr. Benga Komolafe, is saying that the Commission will not pander to the wishes of either the oil producers or crude refineries in implementation of the domestic crude supply obligations. And then he's saying basically that they're going to be taking licenses away from people who do not adhere to these rules. He said if you're busy selling when we have issues with our local, we're going to seize your licenses. That is an effective ban. And for many Nigerians who are seeing this, it was met with, this is a good thing for the industry. It looks like it's going to ramp up our production here. Things are going to be better for us. What could possibly be wrong with that? Apart from all the things that you mentioned.
Well, I don't know how far you want to go with that. I certainly, I'm just, telling you what I think. I won't use that word. I'm serious, and I think it's something we need to. So the law is the law, right? And the law has specified. So what they are doing is within what the law in the regulation, section 9(1) of the regulation says that they can do that, right? Is that a ban? I wouldn't say that. But having said that, let me address something else. I think we need to think deeply about some of these issues, right? The crude we are talking about belongs to somebody. I make this point so that we appreciate that the right to private property has not changed, right? There's no free crude anywhere. Yeah, Nigeria produces, but it belongs to someone. And so there's a limit to how much power, the state can wield on private property. So let's get that. So whether it's NNPC, is someone. So that's why we have to enter contracts. So my take on this is that in national interest, certain things can be done, but like I said, let's follow the rules, and I think they are following the rules.
For now, Mr. Komolafe, I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Gillis-Harry, as we wrap up this conversation. Supply local refineries or lose your export permits. You're excited about this?
Extremely excited. That first of all, I know the man who is, supervising this operation is a no-nonsense man. He's been in all the spheres of the industry, and I think saddled with this responsibility now, he knows much more that if these refineries in Nigeria are working efficiently and effectively and producing optimally that is going to impact on our economy very, very positively. So it's a very good thing that this ban, is effectively
Will it reduce the price of petrol?
The reality is
if
that
everyone stops exporting and starts to supply.
No, but you can see what's happening today. When the production values favor the industry, you see prices just come down by itself. Okay. Dangote has reduced prices. And I was asked on another, are we going to implement in the retail outlet? No, we are not going to do that immediately. But any product that we started loading from Sunday or Monday that goes to our retail outlets will, of course, reflect that pricing that is there. So, and also don't forget that there is also the arrangement going on with Petron, MRS, and Dangote to make sure that we sell products at a uniform price across the country, which is a very great thing that's coming. So, petroleum product pricing, I always say, if we work for availability and ensure that energy security is guaranteed, prices will normally come down to affordability. But we must realize that it's a deregulated economy, and the prices will go up, it will come down, it will go up, it will come down, depending on the economic, environmental factors. So we have a good expectation of how this will play out to help Nigerians.
Thank you so much, Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry, for being with us on the program, National President of Petron. Thanks for all of your insights this morning.
Thank you so much.
And of course, Mr. Joe Nwakwe, Chairman of SPEL, Oil and Gas, former Chair, Society of Petroleum Engineers, former SA to the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, join us via Zoom there. Thank you very much for your insights as well.
Thank you.
It's a very interesting few days and weeks that we have ahead of us in this country, but we'll be keeping tabs on them and give you those details. But for now, it's time for Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We'll be back afterwards with more conversation. Stay with us.
And it's another trading day right here in Lagos, Nigeria. It's great to have you. We're seeing the trading month of February moving along quite fast. But let's get to the top stories that set your agenda now. Starting with oil, we'll see oil prices were little change today after a volatile trading in the previous session as investors are shrugging off the impact of China tariffs on U.S. energy imports, though President Donald Trump's renewed push to eliminate Iranian crude exports, that provided some support for the market there, but it's still down 0.24% in early trade, $76.02. That's what we're seeing for Brent crude. For the U.S. WTI crude version, that's $72.61 a barrel, down 0.12%. All eyes on the U.S. WTI crude. Is $70 going to hold going forward? We'll definitely find out. Let's get a check on the FX market now. The NAFEX window, that depreciated by 9 naira 40 kobo to fix at 1,505 naira. Similarly, the NFM VWAP rate weakened by about 8 naira 42. So we're seeing weakness for the trade yesterday, even though February started quite bullish. That's for the FX, that's for Naira, with a bullish January, altogether. But definitely all eyes on these levels. Analysts expect this range will continue throughout into next week. We'll definitely be watching that, barring any significant changes right there in the market. Meanwhile, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves fell by $1.16 billion in January 2025, reversing the $592.58 million gain recorded in December. Data from the central bank shows reserves dropped from $40.88 billion to $39.72 billion, marking the steepest decline since April 2024. The sharp fall is linked to increased dollar sales to BDC operators as the CBN moves to stabilize the Naira. The move comes amid continued currency volatility and concerns over external liquidity. Despite the drop, the CBN insists its strategy will boost confidence in the FX market by ensuring steady dollar supply on the retail level. And a promise of a new dawn in Nigeria's internet space as the federal government has invited stakeholders to launch the theme, the Broadband Alliance Acceleration and Collective Prosperity through Connectivity. Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, was represented by the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigeria Communications Commission, delves right into the heart of the matter. Take a listen.
Technology and development,
the promise of a new dawn in Nigeria's internet space as the federal government has invited stakeholders to the launch with the theme, the Broadband Alliance, accelerating our collective prosperity through connectivity.
I would like to invite. Thank you, Minister.
The Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, is represented by the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, Dr. Aminu Maida, and delves right into the heart of the matter.
The National Broadband Alliance for Nigeria is not just an initiative. It is a transformative journey that will pave the way for a digitally connected Nigeria. While this progress is commendable, we recognize that there is much to be done to ensure that every Nigerian can enjoy the benefits of reliable, high-speed internet.
The new platform comes with responsibilities and the need to be explicit about regulations, and the burden lies on the states.
It is very clear which state has the power by law to, impose fee. The fees are stated. The process for application are stated clearly. It also addresses the issue of timeline on, when you make your application, how soon can you get your approvals out. The issue of reinstatements of sites, and then if there are issues of fines if you do not comply.
Benefit expectations and possible challenges with NBAN is a conversation at the panel, moderated by the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company.
Because of that availability of infrastructure, a lot of small companies moved into the area and started opening up businesses, startups, and today that's what we know as the Yaba Silicon Valley. And so I think an open and competitive market that really takes into the consideration the private sector is what I think a lot of jurisdictions need.
The National Broadband Alliance for Nigeria opens a platform to deepen internet penetration and all the benefits that come with it. However, the success of it would depend largely on the true alliance among stakeholders.
All right, to our stories now. We see the Oyo State government has expressed its determination to develop hospitality and tourism as a huge part of its economic expansion program and would not relent in efforts to make the sector one of the best in the country. The state government's chief of staff, Segun Ogunyi, who joined the management of Odua Investment Group company on an inspection tour of the upgraded Premier Hotel in Ibadan, notes that the project is a major win for government as hundreds of residents are currently employed on site, with many more coming on board when the project is done. Take a listen.
Wherever Papaolo and his team were, now they'll be praying that, what they left, you'll be able to change it, turn it around, and increase. Because if we meet something on ground, we must improve on it. And our own legacy is to make sure that we improve it. See the caliber of people who are on the board. Members of the board of Odua. They are forward-thinking people on premise track record in their prison career, and they said, look, we need to improve on this. And not only Premier, we are looking at Ikeja Airport Hotel, we are looking at Lafia, so that all the things we met on ground, we are improving and increasing whatever they have to keep the legacy, so that even when our own children come to, they may decide that the rooms may be 50 to 500 rooms by extending it, but it's better to keep on moving the train.
All right, we'll take a quick break now. Business Morning continues in a moment.
All right, now let's explore the current state of supply chain finance in Nigeria, the challenges it faces, and the transformative role of technology. We'll also delve into how businesses are leveraging technology to optimize their supply chains, the tangible benefits they've experienced, and the emerging trends that are shaping the future of supply chain finance. Well, joining me now for this conversation, we have Oluseyi Sheton, is a co-founder, Chief Growth Officer of Vendor Credit. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So, so much playing out in that industry. How would you describe the current state of supply chain finance in Nigeria? And what would you say are some of the, challenges that supply chain players, what they're facing, right now?
Well, so supply chain finance basically tries to bridge a gap that exists. It's usually buyer-led. And so the situation is such that, the buyer, you leverage off the rating, right, the credit risk rating of the buyer to be able to offer facilities to the seller. In most cases, the buyers are large multinational corporates, while the sellers are predominantly SMEs. So speaking to the challenges that exist there, supply chains are obviously not immune from the macroeconomic conditions that, a lot of us experienced last year. Inflation was, it peaked up to 34.8%, and devaluation officially was about 40%. Energy costs went up off the back of the fact that subsidies were removed, and that affected both sides of, the supply chain finance partnership. Access to credit still remains a big problem. I know private credit went up to about 76 trillion as of November last year. But if you do what our private credit is versus, to GDP, and you compare us to other countries, even within SSA, you realize we're still far behind. I think we did about 12.96, and a country like South Africa is doing as high as 91%. And that affected the corporate sides. And, on the smaller side, that's the SMEs, they still didn't get a lot of funding. Family and friends still remain the major source of funding that they get. I think PwC did a report where they mentioned about 38% of the survey that they did. 38% of the funding was secured by from family and friends. Fintechs are coming into that space as well, just trying to ensure that there's more credit that gets to the hands of SMEs. Cost of funds was another huge challenge last year. Off the back of inflation and devaluation, the CBN had to raise MPR to about 24.75 last year, and 27.25 last year, and CRR to about 50% last year as well. And treasury bills were going out at yields at almost as high as 29. Obviously, what that did was crowd out the liquidity that existed and stifled access, increased the cost of funds for a lot of corporates, not to now talk about the SMEs that were in the space as well. So all these things, created a great gap, right, between the corporates, which are typically the buyers, as well as the sellers, which are typically SMEs. And supply chain finance was needed more than ever at those points in time, because the buyers had to extend payment terms in reaction to that, leveraging off their powers of negotiation, and pretty much passed it down to the SMEs who had little or no chances of fighting back.
Right.
So supply chain finance, innovative solutions like that had to step in to try and bridge those gaps and ensure that those partnerships continue to thrive.
Right. I guess at this point, everyone just passing on, the cost, and at the end of the day, gets to the end user. But talk to me about how technology is changing the landscape of supply chain finance in Nigeria, and some of the opportunities it's creating for businesses within that supply chain, within the supply chain itself.
All right, good question. So technology is coming in to revolutionize, or at least to support what the actual business activities are, right? So solutions like digital invoice financing, for instance, which creates marketplaces where vendors, who their payment terms have been moved up from maybe 30 to 60 days or 60 to 90 days, can go to these platforms and trade in their invoices to be able to take out cash. There are also digital supply chain finance platforms, which don't just deal with post-fulfillment finance. They also deal with pre-fulfillment finance. So those platforms are such that they allow retail investors or even institutional investors be able to provide capital to intermediate on the requirements that the vendors have on supply chain transactions that they need to fulfill on. Another thing that is still nascent but is growing is blockchain financing. Use of blockchain to be able to track transactions, be able to get updated information on transactions as they are going on, and it has its benefits on both the buyer and the seller side. AI is coming hard and strong in this space as well. There's a lot of data that is scattered all around the place. Expectation is that with AI and access to those data points, we'll be able to collect those data and then use that to have a fairer and a more appropriate risk assessment of both the buyer as well as the seller, which ultimately would lead to an increase in capital going in that direction. So a lot of things are going on that technology is doing, but if you're going to summarize everything, technology is driving efficiency in the space, right? Is expanding access to capital, is enabling better risk management, and ultimately is also even improving costs for businesses. So technology is doing quite a lot, and the outlook is even brighter.
Right, and it seems we can't have any conversation these days, without AI, popping up or blockchain. Definitely going to be an interesting future, going forward. But what advice would you give to, businesses that are looking to optimize their supply chain?
Well, for businesses that want to optimize, I believe collaboration is very key. You need to find innovative ways to do what it is that you're doing before. We're on the cusp of the fifth revolution. And demographics are changing around us as well. So there's a trend and direction towards supply chain financing, as well as the benefits that technologically driven supply chain financing would do. I believe, like I said from the very beginning, collaboration is very key, because what it allows people to do is utilize the data that you've been able to store on a lot of your sellers, right, to enable financiers be able to make a proper judgment or make a fairer assessment of the SMEs that work with them. So overall, I think the benefits are significant, and it only makes sense for everybody to move in that direction.
All right, thank you so much. It was great having your perspective today. That was Oluseyi Shetan, the co-founder, Chief Growth Officer at Vendor Credit. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
All right, so now we see Asset Rise, a prominent real estate company that delving into agro real estate. We'll be discussing the motivations behind this, strategic move, delving into their mission and examining the significant potential of oil palm cultivation. Well, join us for this conversation. We have Oluwadurotimi Ojamamoye, GMD Asset Rise Limited, joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Right. So, when you think of real estate, and a real estate company, you expect it's just agency, housing, sales, and all of that, just providing housing solutions. But now you're going into agro. That's the agro side of things. Talk to me about that and what's motivating, you delving into that side of things.
Thank you so much. So agro real estate is not new. We have a great icon who have done this, Hauwa. Back in his years, he founded the Atiku-Uwais Palm PLC, over 10,000 hectares. Luckily, he's in my community. So I learned from everything that we saw there. And today, after 50 years, that place is still yielding revenue. And that is real estate in agriculture. Now we have taken this further by democratizing what we can do with the oil palm, by making sure that people don't just buy land for building houses alone, they can buy land for agriculture. And then together we can create models to solve food security, create exportable agriculture of the country, and people can earn from agriculture. So this is our model for agro real estate. Basically, all over the world, farm assets, farm acquisition as an asset is a major investment. And definitely, you know, the land we appreciate over time, and sooner than later, that same land that is 50,000 today, after you have farmed on it for 10 years, 20 years, can become 100 million tomorrow. So
right.
that's all about the agro-real estate model.
So if I want to, key into that side of things, all I'm doing is I'm buying, agro land, at this point. So what's the earning potential there?
Okay. Let me give you a bit of what we have done with this. So as of today, we are cultivating over 4,000 hectares in 4 different states. In Oyo State, currently we have an oil mill processing palm oil at about 1.5 tons per day. We recently launched a 3,000 hectares in Ado-Uwais, Ogun State, and we are going to be launching a 5,000 hectares this year, also in Ogun State. Now what it means to the investors is that you buy this land, you own it, and then because it is a community, we're able to provide better security, better practice of agriculture. We partner with NIFOR, with other institutions, IITA, to see how this is done professionally. And then the oil palms grow, and then you can earn for over 30, 40, 50 years, because the oil palm is sustainable for a very long time. So your profitability is not just today, it is for a very long time, both on the oil palm and also on the land asset that is going to be appreciated. And we have seen this become a major force to solve some basic problem in Nigeria. For example, this is a model to solve poverty. I'll give you an example. You're going to retire someday, and then you retire to something that should be dependable. And I can tell you that the palm oil or the palm oil plantation can serve as a retirement plan. If you own a 5 hectare today, cultivated with palm tree, you are definitely sure of having passive income for over 40, 50 years. And then you are not pressured at your retirement. For cooperative organizations, they can invest massively in oil palm. For churches, for different institutions. And when we talk about this in our model for sustainability, beyond the oil palm, is the fact that the land itself can be intercropped. So the oil palm is planted at a very space that can allow other crops to do well on it. So today in Lagos State, we operate the biggest farm right in Ekpe with oil palm. Last year, we had the Commissioner for Agric visit our Eco Yams project. 2023, right in the midst of this oil palm, we intercrop over 1 million tubers of yam. It is always new that, Lagos don't have land. But agriculture is a basic thing that if we understand how to do it, it is far profitable for everyone and is a value chain to explore for decades.
And, definitely there's also, impacts, when you're looking at this kind of business. Talk to me about the environmental side of things.
Thank you so much. Now, you see, when I speak about Lagos State, you have a lot of industries in Lagos State. I think Lagos should be more concerned about having a lot of oil palms because the trees will support the environment. If you go to Atiku-Uwais today, you have about 1.5 million trees planted. So the more trees we can plant, not just trees now, economic trees, can also help our environment to survive. Last year, I was privileged to be on the UK House of Parliament, and I was speaking about sustainability and telling them simply about my father's story. He died when I was 14. He planted over 100 acres of the oil palm. When he died, that was our sustainability. We don't need to beg any uncle to go to school. We mill palm oil, pay our tuition. But talk about the environmental impact. He's gone for over 20-something years now. Those trees are still supporting the environment. So Agric has a lot of potential to sustain our environment beyond the economic impact that it will give onto us.
Right. And sorry about your dad, but I'm sure many years ago, I'm sure he was a great guy.
Yeah.
Talk to me about results.
Great.
That you've seen so far with this.
Okay. So let's talk about results and see the inflation in Nigeria right now and see how farmers are smiling to the bank. 2024, as of January, a 25-liter keg of palm oil was 15,000. Today is 70,000 naira. So the farmer who cannot speak English is earning more than even a bank manager in Lagos currently. Agric is a potential. Now talk about poverty eradication. A lot of persons who can go back to the farm, like I just told you, we did over 1 million tubers of yam in Lagos. On an hectare of land, you can do about 10,000 tubers. So the economic potential of Agric is large, and that's the impact. So for us, with over 4,000 hectares, we're currently connected to both Nigerians home and abroad. more Nigerians in diaspora who are investing back home in the oil palm plantation, and we are creating sustainable wealth together with Nigerians. Number two, we are creating jobs for our youth. As of today, at our back office, we have over 65 staffs, and we have over 4,000 consultants who work with us across this real estate potential. So enormous job creation opportunity. Number three, food security. The oil palm has a lot of economic impact. Almost all the cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and food industry use the palm oil. So it's a great demand for both local and international markets. And for domestic and industrial consumption, the palm oil industry is a major. You have potentials from the palm kernel oil, from everything that you see in the palm oil is a major thing. Now, what we are advocating...
So it seems nothing goes to waste.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. So what we are advocating to our youths, rather than waiting for the government, to a lot of our elders, rather than blaming the government for what to do, let's go back to the farm. We have this with us. Malaysia today, their entire economy is powered with palm oil. You see companies like Okumu and the rest of them with decades, over 50 years, palm oil, and billions of naira in declaration. This is a large potential for us to create wealth in Nigeria for ourselves.
Right, and definitely, I love the sound of that, creating wealth, for Nigeria, because we need that, right there. But how do we properly, diversify, with agro real estate? Because at this point, you don't know when your asset class, something you're holding in your portfolio is going to come under fire. With what we're seeing, these days in the market.
So let me talk jokingly about fire. These palm trees are the most sustainable agri you can talk about. When fire gets into an oil palm farm, if the fire is extinguished, the palm tree will grow back.
Wow.
Yes, you can experiment that. And then it's agile. Climate change, the palm tree will withstand. So it's very agile. Then the assets, the land itself, it's your asset. You own the land. That's the model now. It's democratized, so you can own 1 hectare, and then your land is appreciating. And then to protect this asset, that's when we now go into partnership with governments. As of date, we are in talks with the Enugu State government, who is giving us about 7,000 hectares, Abia State government, about 10,000 hectares, and in Enugu State, we have a lot of hectares developed already. Why do we need to go to the government? Because land is the major asset. So our people in diaspora want to invest, but they want to make sure that their investment is secure. Nigerians want to invest, but want to make sure their investment is secure. So the land must be secure. Then after the security of the land is the partnership with major players to make sure that we plant it right and it grows. Now, you plant it once and for all, and you reap for over 50 years. So the potential is enormous if we do it legally and if we do it rightly.
Right, and we definitely want to do it, right at this point. But what more can we expect from, asset rise, going into 2025?
Thank you. So this year, let me also mention that we have diversified from the sustainable. Palm tree is sustainable to the more risky part of agric, because we have the income flow now, and that's a major advice to a lot of people who want to go into agric. You want to experiment with what is not sustainable, it is not advisable. Start with the palms, then you can experiment. Now, we have partnered with Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, and Channels was on the program. We are currently empowering over 1,500 students of that institution with our SAP project, and with 100 hectares right in the school. And we also have schools coming in, Federal University of Federal Polytechnic Ilaru, and other universities that we are partnering with to expand the agri portfolio and our benefit to Nigeria. So this year we're going to go into more partnership. Let me also mention that the Nigerian Society of Engineers currently signed an MOU with us to expand our project in 2025 with a model to create the farm in 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. And there is a lot more that we can give. But more of it, let's democratize it. You can own an oil palm tree farm, and then you can walk in Lagos and not be bothered. It is the only investment in agri that you cannot be there and it's still growing. In fact, you can abandon it for 10 years and come back, and your business is still continuing. Right. That is how agile and sustainable.
Because we've heard of some agriculture investments in the past where you come back and you see that the asset is not there anymore, and you hear stories about you're not able to get the returns that you're supposed to get before. So how is this model eliminating, all of that? Because when people hear about agricultural investments, some of them get scared. They're like, it's here again.
Yeah.
How do you hedge against all of that?
So thank you. I think jokingly last year or thereabouts, when talking with channels, and channels said, no, we're not taking any agri company. A lot of issues with these people. But we understand that channels also has contributed a lot to sanitizing the industry and removing a lot of scams. Now, if you want to come into agri, first guarantee the asset. Go and make your search. Go to the government, the Ministry of Land, search that the land is not under government acquisition. Engage your lawyer. Then 2, we are going to plant for you once you acquire. And this is not a sit back and expect. You can inspect and see the progress. A lot of our clients come to the site. Probably the Adodo plant is having an agro-tourism in there. So you can come to your farm, sleep in there, and even retire there. You can build a resort in the farm. So it's an all-encompassing model that will be sustainable and will eliminate fraud. Now, lastly about fraud. This is not an investment scheme promising you get 60%, you get 30%. No, you own this. The potential for oil palm is all available. You can Google it. Once it is planted right, you are certain of your return. And I just experimented. On a one plot, if you can get about 5 to 10 kegs in a year, multiply that by 70,000 right now. Then you're getting a good return.
Right.
On a projection. On an hectare, you are good. And the asset that you own is certified for you and is increasing over time.
Right, I'll definitely love to wake up, in a farm, because I love nature.
Awesome. You want to come to
fantastic.
Okipupa and wake up seeing trees all around.
Exactly. I'm sure the air feels different.
Awesome.
There.
Awesome.
I'd love to experience it. But thank you so much. It was great having you today, Oluwaduro Timi, the GMD Asset Rise Limited, breaking down this investment opportunity for us.
Okay. If you want to get back to us, we have a brochure that you can download.
Right.
You can call our numbers 080-232, then 4 in 5 places. 080-232-44444. And we have a brochure you can download, study it, and engage us legally because it must be rightly done.
It must be rightly done. Well said. Thank you so much. It was great having you today.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to be joining a live coverage now. That's for our DSTV viewers, a live coverage of coronation of newly appointed emirs and chiefs in Adamawa State. That's the Fufore local government area in Adamawa State. But we're still live on other platforms. But that's it from me on Business Morning. I hand things over to the Sunrise Daily team.
Has one of the worst statistics when it comes to women political participation. After the last general election, we currently have about 4% of women in elective position, which is very, very low compared to countries like Rwanda that has over 60% of women. If you go to South Africa, if you go to Kenya, meanwhile we are the giant of Africa, but then we have women that constitute about 50% of our population but have not been given the space to occupy strategic position. And we all know, apart from political positions, women are doing very well in other areas. If you look at businesses, women are doing well. So we don't lack women with capacity to occupy strategic position, but the enabling environment is not there for them. So we actually have women that have what it takes. But if you look at women that aspire to be in political positions, after the last general election, UN Women converged all the females that contested for different positions at national, state levels. We discovered that there were a lot of factors that made them not to continue with the race. Some of them were forced to step down. Some of them, their families' lives were threatened. Some of them, even their spouses threatened to end the marriage if they continue. So these are some of the factors that limit women to actually occupy those positions.
It's a very interesting point that he's raised there, and that is the UN Women Programs Director talking about the impact that women have in politics. And of course, looking at the fact that, well, he's correct, 4% of women in elective positions, meanwhile women make up 50% of the population. We'll discuss that, among other issues, bedeviling our nation. And joining us is someone who kind of understands these challenges that they're talking about there, and of course very vocal when it comes to good governance in the country. Joining us live in the studio is Hauwa Atiku-Uwais, a good governance advocate, member of the People's Democratic Party and daughter of the candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the last elections, Atiku Abubakar. Thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, let's get the women issue out of the way. Because I know you don't really like to talk about when you want to put gender on things.
Yeah.
But he does point out the fact that there seems to be a gender dynamic, really. If you look at other countries in Africa, and especially when you go to a place like Rwanda, you just spend some time being quiet as a woman. You just kind of wonder, how do we replicate this in Nigeria? Is it even possible to do this? But that dynamic in Nigeria, it does feel like many women are used to mobilize. We're used at the grassroots level for mobilization when it comes to politics. But then they give us concessions with collecting tickets. Okay, you pay half. You don't pay as much as the men do. But then when it comes to the positions themselves, you find that women are way behind on that. Even when it comes to appointments, even in the Tinubu administration, we saw that going on. From your experience being in politics and mobilizing and doing all the work that you do for the People's Democratic Party, what do you think is the issue here?
I don't think it's so much of an issue that we have. I think that it is a perspective that we lack. And my perspective is simple. I grew up in a family where gender didn't matter. I've got 10 brothers and 17 sisters. And for my parents, it didn't matter if you were a girl or a boy. It just mattered your capacity and ability. For instance, do you think being a woman hinders your ability or increases your ability to do your job?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. It's just a simple issue of you being able to do what you're tasked with. So I think that we need to shift our perspective from gender to capacity and ability, and being able to deliver on tasks that you've chosen or you've been given. For me, it's as simple as that. I don't like to dwell on the gender issue.
Because it does seem sometimes like we want to eat our cake and have it as women. You don't want to give as much as other people give because you are female. Oh, I'm married. Oh, I have children. You make those excuses, but you want the whole enchilada, and it doesn't really work that way, does it?
No,
if we can focus really on KPIs, what are you delivering on, and then what benefits you get from what you've given. That's the perspective.
In fact, exactly. So you've got me spot on. If you can focus on that and move away from the fact that you're a woman, I think it sorts everything out. My mother raised 6 children of her own. She was a civil servant for 30-something years, and she delivered at all times, at home and at her job. Nothing hindered her. Being a woman didn't hinder her. You see, so I don't think that it's an issue that we need to harp on. And because the more we talk about it being an issue of gender, it then becomes an issue of gender. But it's not an issue of gender. It's an issue of your capacity to deliver. That's what it is. Nothing more.
I'm looking forward to that period where it doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what gender you are. Are you able to deliver?
That's it.
Let's move on now to politics. Let's talk about the PDP. You're a member of the People's Democratic Party. Everyone has been talking about the PDP since that meeting. Since that is the Board of Trustees meeting, wasn't it? That happened at Wadata House. And the issue with the office of the National Secretary and the ups and downs. I mean, I was saying it here on the program. I wish I was a fly. I paid to be a fly on the wall to know what happened inside that made Mr. Okoye run out of the hall like that, you know. And of course, all the issues around offices. We have factions in the PDP who do not believe that Damagun should be acting chair of the party. And there are people who also believe that Mr. Samanyan should not have even, the contest even for his office shouldn't have happened. And then the issue of whether it is constitutional or whether it is a party issue. Give me your thoughts on these issues.
So my thought basically on this issue is that, listen, we have a working document, we have a constitution of the PDP. Are we acting according to it? Because for me, I go beyond the party. I think about democracy as a whole. I think about where we want to be as a nation with democratic tendencies and inclinations. Is this where we want to be? And I think that for most in the PDP as well, especially those where at my own strata where I am, we really just want a party where we have democratic rules that are being followed, the constitution is being followed, and all these things are, because I mean, when you think about it, it's quite tedious to keep talking about the same thing, about the same issue without moving forward. So for me, I just want a viable alternative to what we have. Do we have a viable alternative? For me, that is the question. All opposition parties should be able to work within their constitution and their working documents and enshrine democracy as the founding fathers of democracy in Nigeria envisioned.
Is the PDP, in your view, doing the role of a viable opposition party to the APC as is right now?
As is right now, there are hiccups. Let me put it that way. There are hiccups. It is still a party that can rise to the occasion, but we need to do the right things. And this goes out to all opposition parties in Nigeria. Everybody needs to get its act together. All parties need to get their acts together. And so we can come back to the drawing table and provide an alternative, a credible and viable alternative to what we have. Because what we have is just not working for us.
I mean, it's interesting that you brought up the party constitutions. Many people have accused your father of being the problem. He shouldn't have run in 2023 because you have a formula. The North 8 years, the South 8 years. This has been the formula over the years. It's an unspoken rule. We've all accepted it and moved on. But understood the concept behind it. We want to be able to see power shift from parts of the country so we can see governance affect different parts of the country. Now, I know you're going to say my dad had the constitutional right to rule, but should he, the constitutional right to run, but should he have, considering this formula, in 2023 and in 2027, should he run again?
I think that you're getting it all wrong, because this issue of the North and the South in the PDP has been hashed and rehashed and hashed and rehashed over and over again. I remember a couple of months ago, my older brother, Shegun Showomi, was here, and he talked about the dynamics of that particular issue about the North and the South. But for me, now this is the very important thing that I want Nigerians to focus on. It's not about where you come from. Yes, we want to change in terms of diversity of the people that rule us, or rather that lead us. That's the key word, which we're not getting much of. But then, do you have to look at it as a regional thing? I don't think so. I really don't think so. As a Nigerian, I am open to anyone leading the country where it should be, whether that person is from the North or the South. It really shouldn't matter at the age that democracy is growing around the world. I mean, you just talked about Rwanda, for God's sake. Do you think it matters if they don't even like it anymore when you call Tutsi and Hutsis, and they don't like it because they've moved beyond that. And I think that the discussion shouldn't be about where you're from. The discussion should be, are you able? Are you capable?
Well, have we moved beyond that?
We need to. We cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results. We cannot keep talking about someone's sex, someone's age, someone's religion, someone's ethnicity to get a leader. Where has it gotten us to? Are you proud of the Nigeria we're living in right now, where we're at? Because of all of these dynamics that we keep talking about and we keep hashing about. Are you happy with it? I don't think an average Nigerian will sit down and say, I'm happy with where Nigeria is. You know, so we need to move beyond all of that.
My colleague in Lagos is itching. Itching to get to you. Go ahead, Ayo. You have the floor.
About old things that are supposed to have passed away, Madam, I'm more interested in those of us who are young and looking forward. It's, for me, one of the major concerns is the inclusion level, the level at which young people are introduced into politics, or that they are not even included at all in the political conversation. Do they have a space in the room? For how long are they going to be playing, quote unquote, catch up? Back in the day, the days that Kayla is trying to remind you of, the days of mommy and daddy, they started young. They were in government when they were very young, in their 20s. As we talked about Murtala Mohammed this morning. He was part of the people who led the coup in the 60s. He was born in 1938. And, you know, we have also spoken about the Gowons of this world, the Awolowas of this world, the Nnamdi Azikiwes of this world, the Tafawa Balewas of this world, and the rest of them. They started very young. They started in their 20s. But it would seem like we're not even allowing the young people the appropriate space in the room to make plans, to be part of decisions that will shape their future and the future of their own children. What do you think?
Okay, so for me, I don't think that, for the basic truth is that power is not going to be given to you. You have to want to partake in it, and you want to have to, you know, be serious about it. So the last election, I took it upon myself to go out there and participate actively and look at the actual issues that bedevil our democratic processes and our electioneering processes. And, you know, dare I say that I've gathered a lot of knowledge from that. And with that, I'm hoping to do a lot of things to, you know, help our democracy. But for you to sit down in the comfort of your room and to think that the older generation will just open up the way and just leave you to come and take power away from them, I think is a serious misconception. It's, you know, these Gowons and Tafawa Balewas that you talked about just now, they were daring enough to put themselves out there. Can you see the young people doing that? They apart from being daring enough to put themselves out there, they were focused. You know, they knew what they wanted to do, what they wanted to achieve, and they set out to do exactly that. Now we're talking about a whole different breed of people. We're talking about AI, we're talking about fraud, we're talking about education, we're talking about exposure, there are so many other dynamics that just didn't even come into play when the Tafawa Balewas were there. You know, so I think that we need to look at ourselves as young people and to find out what we can actually and honestly give to the nation. Not take, give. I think it's very, very important and very vital. And I think that that is the question that young people should be asking themselves. What am I willing to give for the benefit of my country? From there, hopefully, we can have a more serious conversation on involving young people in politics and position of influence and power.
Madam Hauwa Atiku-Uwais, I'm trying to get online to see what people think of what you just said now, particularly the young people. Because as far as they're concerned, what's Nigeria going to give me? That's the primary rhetoric. And here you are preaching good governance. I mean, you have listened to it all. You, one way or the other, you had an experience of what people did during the good governance protest recently, the 2020 End SARS movement, which was spontaneous all over the nation at a particular time, and mostly driven by young people. So perhaps the challenge is that of direction. People can't just jump into the ring without some form of direction, without some form of preparation.
I agree.
What do you think? How do they, I think perhaps the issue is that first step. Since I was young,
Yes.
I've been hearing youth are the leaders of tomorrow. I'm still hearing the same thing. And it will seem like there is no process through which people get into it, except the people. In fact, some people will say that you are here because your father, grew through the ranks, sort of. But then there are opportunities for others. So how do they get that requisite training, preparation they need to get into the room in a way that, as you said, is not overtly forceful, but at the same time firm enough to be heard?
Okay, so first of all, I'm here because of obviously my choices. I was obviously sent to school to study. I studied. I did what I had to do. I came back to my country. I did my NYSC in very deplorable conditions, but I did it nonetheless. Do I want it to be better? Yes. Now I'm not so young, actually. I've got 3 kids, so I don't think it's an issue of being young. For me, it's an issue of wanting better. I'm not here because of my dad, but my dad will always be the elephant in the room, right? But I say this all the time to young people. If I am able to try and break out from the shadow of my own father, then there is no limit to what you can do when you don't have to deal with what I have to do. Because if I say something, they say, Atiku's daughter says something. If I do something, Atiku's daughter does something. It is something that I have to live with. And I also have to find a way to break that barrier and to ensure that people are seeing me for me. Before the election started in 2023, the whole of 2022, I tried to put young people together to discuss the polity, discuss where we want to go as a young group. Yes? And this I continue to do, to sensitize, to educate, to mobilize. These are choices that I made. My father didn't make those choices for me. My mother didn't make those choices for me. I made that choice. Because, listen, I look back, and like you said, I am still listening to the fact that children are the leaders of tomorrow, but I genuinely want my children to be the leaders of tomorrow. I don't want to be there when my children are supposed to be there. It's as simple as that. So yes, I'm thinking about my 3 children, and I'm looking and I'm saying, what are the choices I can make today to better their years in 20, 30 years? These are the things that we need to talk about. It's not such a short-term thing. It's a long-term thing, and you have to be extremely deliberate about where you want to go.
I love the way you've put it, but I'd also ask this. One of the things I say, and having spoken to so many people about good governance and all over the years, I keep asking one question. Do we have a system through which people can grow into leadership? Do we have a culture, an internship culture at the governance level, at the private sector level, where people, irrespective of who you are, where you're from, well, maybe the private sector has set such internship programs, but I'm not sure we can say the same for governance. I know that there are youth parliaments all over the place, but whether or not those amounts to anything on the long run, that's another conversation altogether. So do you think, on the one hand, the people who are in government today, who've been in government for, as we say, donkey years, do you think it's time for them to begin to bring up some people, put them forward, and recruit them in their place so they can resign? Or do you think we should institute a school of quote-unquote government, a school, a process that people are compelled to go through if they have to be in government because of all the issues of corruption and those other things that do not encourage our values?
Actually, I like your last question because it wasn't so much a question, it was a very, very valuable suggestion. Perhaps this is something that the country needs to look at because obviously the system that we have isn't working. So for me, it's simple. The system we have isn't working in terms of recruiting credible people into government, people that, can deliver. The system we have truly isn't working. So what do we need to do? Change the system. Change the recruitment process. how do we get people that are credible? How do we get people that can deliver on what they promise? Because I mean, it's not enough to go and you know, get a podium and get on it, get to speak in a microphone and just keep talking to people and saying, I'll do this, I'll do that. And you get into office and you forget about them. So we need to find a system that ensures that the people that can do the job actually get there. The people that want to do, you know, the service, you know, this is what government is all about. And this is what I keep saying all the time. Government is about service to the people. It's not about service to your pocket. It's not about service to your family members. It's about service to the people. So we need to get people that actually want to serve their nation in there. And like you said, you gave a very valuable suggestion. Maybe it is time for us to create a system where people can be put through, you know, through leadership positions, starting small and all the way through. Because right now, I don't see it. I don't see it. And that's why the conversation about taking power comes in, you know, because you're not given the space to actually grow and move. So you need to take it. But if you're given the space, I think that perhaps young people can actually get in.
Very insightful conversation right there. Do you personally, as we wrap up, do you have political ambitions?
Not right now.
Not right now?
No.
So you're not running for governor of Adamawa State, no, Senate, House of Reps, nothing?
Maybe the president of Nigeria one day.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, I want to thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Hauwa Atiku-Uwais, good governance advocate, member of the People's Democratic Party, and daughter of the presidential aspirant under the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 general elections, Atiku Abubakar. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have two messages here. Professor Nakana says, on the other hand, crude oil exports, and I think he's talking about the export ban, crude oil exports ban from Nigeria could significantly impact the country's economy by reducing its primary source of foreign exchange, potentially leading to a decline in government revenue, impacting currency value, and putting pressure on the economy to diversify towards other sectors, while potentially offering benefits like increased domestic refining capacity and value-added product production if managed effectively. Ayo, you've got one.
Yes, Festus Akimboyewa says many of the petrol tanker fires we have in our country are preventable. If only the authorities are willing to do their jobs. Vehicles used to transport large quantities of dangerous goods will, like petrol, must meet safety requirements and comply with the relevant laws. Any petroleum tanker found not to be fully compliant with safety requirements and laws must be impounded and owners prosecuted. Thank you, Festus, but I don't even think that is a new thing. I think it should be a no-brainer, but maybe it's a little more than rocket science for some people to know. Anyway, that's the show today. Thank you so much for the privilege of being a part of your morning. I'm Ayo Makide. Enjoy the rest of your day.
It's hump day, the middle of the week. We're almost there. It's almost Friday. So have a wonderful rest of your week. I'm Kayla Magwa.